So here we are 3 days after giving birth, and I'm headed to the ER. We get to the ER, and since we're in the middle of a global pandemic, my husband wheels me in the wheelchair, and they let us know, like, hey, this is as far as you go, which is like the entrance. So he has to drop me off, and I have to go in alone. Have to leave my baby at home. Thank God that my mom is here, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law were all here at the house to help take care of the baby while my husband could come and drop me off. But I go in and I get tested, and turns out that it is postpartum preeclampsia. So postpartum preeclampsia means that you have really high blood pressure and there's protein present in your urine. They were also worried about a couple of other things, so I had to get an MRI and do a ton of testing. And ultimately, while I was in the ER, they just hooked me up to a machine and monitored my blood pressure for about 6 hours. And my blood pressure when I came in was 180 over 112. Normal blood pressure is 120 over 80, so I had excessively high blood pressure. So they wanted to monitor me, and they decided after they got the positive confirmation that it really was postpartum preeclampsia, that they wanted me to stay overnight and get readmitted into postpartum unit. It was a lot. Thankfully, God is good, and I found favor with some people at the hospital that made an exception for Matt to come in and stay with me overnight in that postpartum unit. The hospital's on lockdown, so nobody on that floor that I was on was allowed to have visitors or guests after 8 p.m. And I'm so grateful that they allowed him to come in and stay with me because I really needed the support at that time. But they put me on a magnesium treatment for a full 24 hours. And what that does is help to prevent seizures from happening, which could ultimately result in organ damage and all sorts of stuff that we don't want happening. So I stayed in the hospital for another day. After my 24-hour treatment, they released me so I could come home and spend time with my baby. So all that being said, after having a really rough labor, a really rough delivery that ended up in an unplanned C-section, and then a few days later having to be admitted into the ER for a full day, and then another full day of being in postpartum, it was really hard for me to find time to get into the Word, to be in prayer. Based on my life track record, so to speak, I would think that this would be the time that I would be praying the most, but I found myself so distracted by other things that I definitely prayed a little, but I wasn't really seeking God the way that I feel like I could have in order to have eased my anxiety. Now it's been a little over 3 weeks that we've been back home, and to be honest, I love to wake up in the morning, have a cup of hot something, a cup of hot tea or a cup of coffee, and I sit down generally on my couch and I have my journal and my Bible, and I spend some time in the Word and I spend some time in prayer. And I know that it's not always perfect, and it's not always going to be a full hour-long Bible study and 30 minutes of meditation followed by a 30-minute prayer session for my family and everyone that I love. But even if it's just 5 minutes of reading a single Bible verse and meditating on that for a second and taking a moment to just be still and be silent before the Lord and just invite Him into my day, that counts for a lot. And ever since I got back home from the hospital, I have not had time to do that up until today. So today's the first day that I'm really starting to feel like myself again, and I'm really excited to continue on this postpartum journey. From now on, I will be back in the Word and back into my normal journaling, but I also know that having a newborn, stuff is not always going to happen the way that I plan to. And there she goes. She's starting to roll around in the crib. So this video will be short. But postpartum preeclampsia was a really scary experience, and so I'm excited to share with you some tips that I have kind of incorporated into my life for helping to get my blood pressure back down to a normal rate, and kind of just how that experience has shaped how my first couple weeks of pregnancy have gone. I was really hoping to breastfeed, and because of my high blood pressure and the stress and the anxiety, that led to low milk supply. Despite breastfeeding, on demand and pumping, the most that I was able to pump was about half an ounce in half an hour. And now here we are again 3 weeks later, and I still have not been able to produce more milk than that. So I am ultimately grateful that she's healthy and I'm healthy. But there is a lot of guilt, there is shame, there is confusion as to this is a natural process. And once you give birth to a baby, your body is supposed to be able to supply breast milk. I know breast is best, and it's, specifically geared to give my baby everything that she needs, based on the foods that I've been eating. And it's just amazing how my body can produce for my baby exactly what she needs, from hormones to nutrients to, calories. Everything that she needs would be passed from me to her. And it was really a letdown as far as not being able to breastfeed. But ultimately, throughout these past couple of weeks, I've really learned to lean on the Lord and look at things from the perspective of just being grateful for the fact that, like I said, that we're both healthy and that we have the means to be able to provide her with formula so that she has everything that she needs. But I want to encourage you, if you have ever experienced either going through postpartum preeclampsia or having a really tough time with your milk supply, just really lean on and trust in the Lord. I was really hesitant for the first couple weeks to go to God with this, and I don't know why. I can't tell you why. But now that I've really fully surrendered everything in this process to Him, it's really allowed me to have so much peace and experience joy so much more fully. So I want to encourage you to pray about it. But baby calls. So until next time.